Hello, I am Davina, and hello to all of you, bold, beautiful, brilliant, and evolving souls. Today, I'm going to talk about how the narcissist brainwashes you. And I found an article on brainwashing, and I think it's amazing. Brainwashing is what happens to people in like prisoner of war um, or in a cult. And this is also what happens to children of narcissists. And I compare it to these things, prisoner of war and occult, because I want to get across just how severe this kind of psychological manipulation and coercive control can be. It is so damaging. And yeah, so I found this article and I'm just gonna read from this article because I think it pretty much says it all and says it much better than I would. The article is from How Stuff Works, and the article is called How Brainwashing Works by Julia Layton and Aaliyah Hoyt. So these are not my own words. So I'm just going to kind of skim and pick out some of the important parts that I think are kind of key here. So first of all, what is brainwashing? Brainwashing is a term that refers to both coercive persuasion and a systematic process aimed at altering individuals' beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors through various psychological and manipulative means. Just a minute here. A little bit further down. And one of the important parts of brainwashing is that it happens in isolation. Here it is. Because brainwashing is such an invasive form of influence, it requires the complete isolation and dependency of the subject, which is why you mostly hear of brainwashing occurring in prison camps or totalistic, I don't know how to say that, totalistic cults. And of course, in narcissistic parent-led households. And dependency, of course, the child is dependent and they are isolated. I never thought, it's isolated, but you are because you're in that family, in that house. So in a way, you are like separate from, they can do whatever they want in that area of privacy. And the agent, the brainwasher, must have complete control over the target, the brainwashee, so that the sleeping, eating, and using the bathroom and fulfilling other basic human needs depends on the will of the agent. Again, this falls exactly in what happens to children. The parent is completely in control of, diaper changing and meals, and especially when you're very young, those first 3 years are so critical. The brainwashing process, the agent systematically breaks down the target's identity to the point that it falls apart. The agent then replaces it with another set of behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs that work in the target's current environment. And so there's this man, his name was Robert J. Lifton, and he studied former prisoners of Korean War and Chinese war camps. And this is what he had come up with. He came up with a kind of a list of what happens in the brainwashing process. So number 1 is assault on identity. Number 2, guilt. Number 3, self-betrayal. 4, breaking point. 5, leniency. 6, compulsion to confess. 7, channeling of guilt. 8, releasing of guilt. 9, progress and harmony. And this is not real progress and harmony. This means, like the go along to get along part in your family. And 10, the final confession and rebirth. And this happens when there's like a constant threat to your, to your body, to your safety. And this also fits in with narcissistic abuse. So stage number 1 is breaking down the self. And this is again achieved through isolation, manipulation. Here's a part called assault on identity. You are not who you think you are. This is a systematic attack on a target's sense of self, also called the identity or ego, and their core belief system. The agent denies everything that makes the target who they are. And again, you can see this in the gaslighting that the narcissists use, denies who the child is, denies their reality, denies their feelings, their needs, their perceptions, their ideas, their opinions, everything about them. The target is under constant attack for days, weeks, months, to the point that they become exhausted, confused, and disoriented. And again, this is exactly what would happen to you as a child of a narcissistic parent. And this happens over years, but it probably, I imagine, most brainwashing happens in those first 3 years. You're probably already brainwashed by the time you're 4 or 5. And this is just my assessment. I think Pete Walker also mentions this. The next part of stripping the identity is guilt. They want you to believe that you are bad. While the identity crisis is setting in, the agent is simultaneously creating an overwhelming sense of guilt in the target. They repeatedly and mercilessly attacks the subject for any sin, in quotation marks, the target has committed, large or small. And this so rings true for me. And you can probably imagine just how you feel guilty over everything, any little tiny thing that's not even a mistake, or you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't hurt anybody, but you feel guilty. And this is what the narcissists do to you too, make you believe that everything you're doing, is wrong and bad. The agent may criticize the target for everything from the evilness, quotes unquotes, of their beliefs to the way they eat too slowly. Does this sound familiar to you? Like they're criticizing the stupidest, smallest things. Why are you eating so slowly? Or how come you're not using that broom properly? Or why are you doing the puzzle like that? Criticizing everything you do. The target begins to feel a general sense of shame that everything they do is wrong. Sounds very familiar. Self-betrayal. Agree with me that you are bad. So this is another tactic here. So it's not only telling them that they're bad, but now agree with me that you're bad. And this is, again, exactly what narcissists do. They relocate their shame into you, and then they need you to believe that you are the worthless one. Once the subject is disoriented and drowning in guilt, the agent forces them, either with threat of physical harm or continuance of the mental attack, to denounce their family, friends, peers who also share the same wrong belief system that they hold. This is a little bit different, but again, you can imagine that, the parent is then, able to, make them, denounce who they are, what they believe, what they feel. And here's the next part, the breaking point. Who am I? Where am I? And what am I supposed to do? With their identity in crisis, experiencing deep shame, and having betrayed what they have always believed in, the target may undergo what people in the community refer to as a nervous breakdown. So you might, I don't know if this happens as a child, but here it says uncontrollable sobbing, deep depression, and general disorientation. And I definitely know that this is part of what it is because of the flashbacks that I've experienced. We all experience, a sense of deep depression, disorientation. The target may have lost their grip on reality and have the feeling of being completely lost and alone. Again, it's just I just feel like this is just hitting it on the head, completely lost and alone. You no longer know who you are or where, what you are, disorientation. At this point, their sense of self is pretty much up for grabs. They have no clear understanding of who they are or what is happening to them. At this point, the agent sets up the temptation to convert to another belief system that will save them from their misery. So this is the part where the narcissist gets the child to believe in their reality. So their reality is that you are worthless and I am a wonderful parent, and they get you to believe in that that system, and they get you to conform to the family rules, the often unspoken rules, conform and comply. In stage 2, the possibility of salvation. So this is when the agent presents the individual with a possibility for relief from their suffering. This creates a hope and dependence as the target begins to believe that compliance with the agent's demands is the only way to attain relief or safety. So this is where the fawning kicks in, where they comply, where they submit, believing that this is going to, bring you a sense of relief and safety. First, the brainwasher shows leniency. With the target in a state of crisis, the agent offers some small kindness or reprieve from the abuse. The agent may offer a target a drink of water or take a moment to ask them what they miss about home. Again, this is familiar in the narcissist intermittent reinforcement. So abuse, 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 and then they do something a little bit kind, right? They offer you maybe a hug, or maybe they show you some attention. And so they give you this sort of sense of a false sense of, kind of safety. In a state of breakdown resulting from endless psychological attack, the small kindness seems huge. This is why we, fall for crumbs of love, crumbs of love. And the target may experience a sense of relief and gratitude completely out of proportion to the offering, as if the agent had saved their life. So this is why we have the trauma bonding happens. We have a sense that this caregiver, this parent that we have, is offering us this wonderful thing, even though it's really, really small, like abuse, 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 and then something really tiny, like some show of care that is very small. And the child feels so grateful and so like, oh, wow, I feel so, yeah, so this is just like, this is blowing my mind. Compulsion to confess. Next, the brainwasher offers an opportunity for confession. And the confession part, I'm not exactly sure how it kind of tags in with the narcissistic abuse. But here it says the target may feel a desire to reciprocate the kindness offered to them. And at this point, the agent may present the possibility of a confession as a means of relieving guilt and pain. So again, this is kind of, the analogy of the fawning. This is where we start to fawn. After weeks and months of assault, confusion, breakdown, and moments of leniency, the target's guilt has lost all meaning. They're not even sure what they have done wrong. They just know they are wrong. I'm like, whoa, right? Exactly what happens in narcissistic abuse. Like, you don't even know what you're doing wrong. You just feel wrong all the time. You feel like you're getting it wrong. You feel like something's wrong with you all the time. Wrong, wrong, bad, bad. This creates something of a blank slate, that lets the agent fill in the blanks. They can attach the guilt, that sense of wrongness, to whatever they want. This is humongous control, right? The agent attaches the target's guilt to the belief system that the agent is trying to replace. So they make you feel guilty, maybe for, if you're stating a boundary or expressing your feelings, or they make you feel guilty so that you don't want to do that, right? The target comes to believe that it is their belief system, or possibly, their behaviors, their values, their feelings, that is the cause of their shame. The contrast between the old and the new system Old and new has been established. The old belief system is associated with psychological agony, right? If I show confidence, if I show that I'm worthy, if I express feelings, this brings on agony. This brings on punishment. So we sense that this is, bad for me if I do this. And the new belief system is associated with the possibility of escaping that agony. So if we take on our narcissistic parents' reality that we are bad and wrong and shameful and terrible, that we can escape that sense of real like agony and pain. And then it goes on to describe releasing of the guilt. The target has the power to release themselves from wrongness by confessing to acts associated with their old belief system. So I guess this would be sort of akin to maybe not confessing, but just sort of like, showing, this maybe is just like conformity and compliance. This is the confession that we don't have a real confession as a child, but so this part is maybe a little bit different. And then the progress and what they call harmony. The harmony means you're just going along. The target is now presented with a path to alleged progress and harmony. In other words, if you want, you can choose good. At this stage, the agent stops the abuse, offering a target physical comfort and mental calm in conjunction with the new belief system. The target is made to feel that they must choose between the old and the new, giving them a sense that their fate is in their hands. So this gives us a sense of false control. And I think this is a big part of it too, that we thought we had control over this situation, which we didn't. The target has already denounced their old belief system, their old identity, in response to the leniency and torment, making a so-called conscious choice in favor of the contrasting belief system helps to further relieve their guilt. If they truly believe, then they really didn't betray anyone. The choice is not a difficult one. The new identity is safe and desirable because it is nothing like the one that led to their breakdown. So the child has to choose this new identity that their narcissistic parent is forcing on them. This is the obvious and only choice really they have. And finally, what they call kind of a rebirth, which means just rebirth into this false self. So now you're choosing a so-called good, or what your parents are telling you is good. Contrasting the agony of the old with the peacefulness of the new, right? So when you're a child and you're trying to express your feelings and you're just getting shamed and punished, and this is the old. Peacefulness of the new is where you're going along to get along. You're complying to how the narcissist wants you to be. This feels more peaceful. This feels safer. So this is what we choose. The target chooses a new identity, clinging to it like a life preserver, right? And this is how we develop a sense of terror, because, any sense that our true self is showing feels terrifying. They reject their old belief system and pledge allegiance to the new one that is going to make their life better. So that kind of wraps it up there. I know this has been a long video, but I just feel like this is just kind of blowing my mind when I think of like just how severe this brainwashing and coercive control is. If I can compare it to a prisoner, of what the prisoners of war go through, like we have C-PTSD. People who have C-PTSD, yeah, were in a war, or they were trafficked, like they were victims of human trafficking, or victims of some crazy cult. So it is a severe disorder, and our parents, really like brainwashed us into believing that we are something else. So it's so important to I don't know, important to what? I mean, I just wanted to get across to you just the severity of what happened to you. And just the extreme difficulty of recovering this original identity is so hard. It takes so much work because you weren't in a prisoner of war camp for, a few months or a year or two. You were in a prisoner of war camp for, 18, 19 years. This takes a lot to unravel. So, yeah, just give yourself so much compassion, so much patience, so much gentleness if you can, and that can be difficult as well. But I hope you have found this video somehow just very validating, if nothing else. And as always, I'm wishing you so many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And thank you always for being here and for watching. I'm Davina at Boldness Blooming.